here is Trump talking about JD Vance and if he regrets basically picking him, because Vance now has a negative 15 net approval rating, according to CNN, which is down from, or up from, -7 the previous week. So he basically had an 8-point drop in favorability, net favorability, within the span of a week, as the Harris campaign very smartly just like rolls out all of his weird, and now I'm even saying it, weird commentary about women and families and loneliness and all this natalism. And so it was reported that Don Jr. and Eric were the ones really pushing for JD, which is hilarious. Trump knows ratings. He knows numbers. Like, this is not going to make him happy. So he's asked about this in this panel, and this was his answer.
Is because the last time you and I sat and talked was the day that you were shot. We'd been together for much of that day. You left to go to Butler, Pennsylvania, and we didn't know what was next.
Yeah.
And 2 days after that,
I cannot understand your microphone.
I know it is really hard for me.
I mean, it's just I can understand you perfectly.
Push this closer.
I can understand you.
I'm happy to hear that, sir.
But I can't
really
understand, Harris.
I have a few more questions.
Because of the distance, and the mics are really in lousy shape, but I cannot understand
So,
Are you asking a question?
what you're saying.
so what I wanted to say was the last time we spoke, you said some words that were prophetic, because I asked you who you wanted to choose for vice president.
Yeah.
And you said normally it really wouldn't matter what they would bring. You know, you choose somebody that you think has a future, that sort of thing. But you said these words 3.5 hours before an attempted assassination on your life. You told me that bad things happen, Harris, and that's why this decision is important this time. Bad things happen. You said it twice. When you look at JD Vance, is he ready on day one?
Does he what?
Ready on day one.
I've always had great respect for him, and for the other candidates too. But I will say this, and I think this is well documented. Historically, the vice president, in terms of the election, does not have any impact. I mean, virtually no impact. You have 2 or 3 days where there's a lot of commotion as to who, like you're having it on the Democrat side, who it's going to be. And then that dies down, and it's all about the presidential pick. Virtually never has it mattered. Maybe Lyndon Johnson mattered for different reasons than what we're talking about, not for vote reasons, but for political reasons, other political reasons. But historically, the choice of a vice president makes no difference. You're voting for the president, and you can have a vice president who's outstanding in every way, and I think JD is. I think that all of them would have been, but
Any of them.
You're not voting that way. You're voting for the president. You're voting for me. If you like me, I'm going to win. If you don't like me, I'm not going to win.
I'm going to get my J.
I guess that's true, buddy, because
There's so many great things there.
he wants to will it into existence, but the reality is that Donald Trump has already been well defined in the public. He has been in the public eye as a presidential candidate, as a politician, for 8 to 10 years, around that time period. People already know how they feel about Donald Trump for the most part. People don't know how they feel about JD Vance. So when abortion is the main, like, stick that the Democrats are hitting the Republicans with, basically, and you pick a guy who has all these retrograde views about abortion and women and families, yeah, it's going to be a problem. And you probably should have foreseen that instead of sprinting to the cash that Peter Thiel would provide for you in this election and doing just that as opposed to giving other considerations.
I mean, there's a number of amazing things there. I mean, this was obviously just an accident on his part, but that moment is very funny, where she goes, "Sir, is JD Vance ready to take over the presidency if necessary?" And he goes, "Homa."
He couldn't hear throughout the whole thing. Like, this is what is also amazing about Biden dropping out, is now the age thing is about Trump, because he's rambling all the time, and he was like, I can't hear you the whole interview.
But does anyone notice that, like, the premise of the question that Harris from
Harris
Faulkner from Fox News posed to Trump was that they apparently weeks ago, before the shooting, they had a interaction where Trump said the VP pick usually doesn't matter, but this one, JD Vance, does. And then when asked the question today, just a few weeks later, Trump, with that context added to the question, Trump goes back to, the VP pick doesn't matter.
Well, except for Lyndon B. Johnson. For
Yes.
political reasons.
Can you Can you guys decode that? Did he basically try to say like he was trying to appeal to Southern racists? Was that part of it as well, JFK?
Yeah, I'm unsure exactly if that's it or if he's making some sort of veiled reference to the assassination, which wouldn't make sense because you wouldn't put the Southern guy on there if you were worried about that happening to you.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what he meant by that. I genuinely don't.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like him just shooting. Like what if you were asked why does the VP pick matter, and your usual thought process is that it doesn't matter, but you need to say that this one does. That's why he's so great, and that's why he makes my ticket stronger. If you were Donald Trump, you'd probably just, even without any premonition whatsoever, because it's the job of the VP is to step in for the president, is to say, well, if something happens to me, this is the guy. And so that just that's not really prophetic. It's just like obvious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the actual role of the VP, at least in modern context, is to supplement the electability of the main candidate. That's why he went with Pence last time, because it was meant to be like a olive branch to the evangelical wing of Republicans, because Trump, is not very religious.
Super religious.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare you.
Same with why Barack Obama went with Joe Biden, because he was meant to be olive branch to the party, like the party's racists. And JD Vance does not enhance the ticket at all. He's clearly just a play for Peter Thiel money, which Trump desperately needs for his legal fees as well as running a campaign. But in terms of electability, he's going to drag the ticket down. Like I think might be the worst pick he could have made, the worst reasonable pick he could have made compared to someone like Elise Stefanik or I don't know, Tim Scott.
Well, he apparently
Brendan,
him. And Don and Eric convinced him into the other rich guy, JD.
The money was very important to him.
I think so too.
Haven't you guys seen like the dozen or so venture capitalists, Silicon Valley venture capitalists, come out and swear up and down that their whole lives they've been Democrats, but now this year they're voting for the Trump ticket? You don't think JD Vance had anything to do with winning over that dozen or so, that cohort of a dozen or so new voters?
Yeah, and how won over are those people? Because they seem to be saying like, maybe I won't do that. Maybe I won't do that $45 million a month when we can maybe get Kamala to look at some Bitcoin stuff.
Yeah, right, exactly. And the VCs also did the call for Kamala too. There was a VC for Kamala call, which I hated seeing, obviously. But like the idea,
I mean, all those calls are bougie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, is there going to be a working people for Kamala? There's not. We all know that there's not. So that's my problem with them. But
those, I mean, I agree. They're cringy at the very least. I care more about, say, like the UAW endorsement from last night than I do about that. But and I care more about their endorsement and their feelings about her VP picks, because Sean Fain said that he likes Bashir and Walz, and did not obviously say Shapiro, because Shapiro would be a horrible pick. But but yeah,
I think that's why they're going to go with him, because he performs that role that they need. People are talking about how progressive Kamala is, which that's a mixed bag in terms of realism, but certainly visually she seems very progressive because she's a Black woman, and so having a more conservative governor is going to breaks with
need to get a good break package on this new administration.
God, if they really do that, I mean, I feel like they've behaved rationally to this point, just from a political perspective about what appeals. That would be a sign of like, okay, this makes sense that the campaign infrastructure from the Biden campaign still remains. I don't think that's rational at all. I don't think it even is like. It helps with Pennsylvania. It raises the floor slightly, but she wants to compete elsewhere. She wants to compete in Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona. What does Shapiro do for that? I mean, someone like Bashir has more. It's a do no harm selection, as Sam was saying. I find that to be way more inoffensive, but I don't know.
I mean, I think that's it's for the party insiders. It's for the people who are concerned that Kamala, that one statement she made, like vaguely chastising Netanyahu, might have people with their like bristles up. So let's pick Shapiro.
Those people got clutches. I also just say Nixon picked Agnew in '68 because he wanted, not only because George Wallace and the racist right, that was part of the new let's get these racists who aren't voting thing, but also because he wanted to make sure he had a VP more odious to the establishment, so he couldn't himself get impeached.
Well, if Kamala has Nixonian style like power skills behind the scenes, I feel like we're in a bit of a better
She
situation.
should put Jamal Bowman at VP.
You're like Rashida Tlaib for VP. No, I mean, I don't know. Like the idea that I think we'll see. I mean, Shapiro would be a huge mistake in my view. But they might calculate, and they probably think this is true, that they don't need the left.
They see being that up in Michigan and be like, okay, let's go with the guy we actually want.
Oh, it'll be insufferable if that's the case.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.